Hey, Louise.
Guess what I'm doing?
What are you doing?
I'm reading one of my favorite stories from the Old Testament.
Your favorite stories from the Old Testament.
There are so many great stories in the Old Testament.
Is it the one about Ishbosheth?
No.
Is it the one about Obadiah?
No.
Is it the one about...
Let me just tell you what it's about, okay?
Okay.
Okay. So, the story is about Hannah.
Hannah,
yes, and it's in the book of 1 Samuel.
Mm-hmm.
Hannah was a young wife who had no children, and she was really, really sad about that.
Yeah.
Yeah, she didn't have any children. She wanted children very, very badly. So, she went to the temple like a good little Hebrew person would, and she prayed and she prayed. Every year she would go back and she'd pray and she prayed. And one year
What did she pray?
One year she went and she prayed so hard, and she was praying so hard just her lips were moving. And she was praying to God, and she was saying, God, please let me have a baby boy. Please give me a baby boy, and I will give him back to you. He will be your servant, and he'll do all the good things that you want him to do.
Wow.
Yeah. And there was somebody listening, because, there's always a preacher in the church. So There was a priest nearby, and he was standing at the door, and he looked in, and he thought she'd been drinking. All he saw was her mouth going back and forth, and he couldn't figure out what in the world was going on. So he went in there and he said, what are you doing in here? You should not be drinking and in the church. And she was mortified.
I guess so.
She said, I'm not drinking, I'm praying. I am talking to God. And he said, oh, okay, no problem.
That priest sounds like a teetotaling Baptist.
Could have been. I don't know. But anyway, so Hannah left the temple and she went back home with her husband, and guess what happened? You can get it. I know you can. Guess.
They had a baby
boy. Yes, I'm so proud of you. Nice job.
Thank you.
So she had a baby boy, and they named that baby boy Samuel.
Okay.
And
Did they call him Sam for short?
maybe, I don't know. But doesn't stop there, because guess what she had to do?
Well, she said she was going to give him back to God, but I don't know what that means.
Well, when he was old enough to live without her, she took Samuel and everything that he needed. And I mean, he must have been about maybe 2 years old. He was little. And she had prayed for him a very long time. And she packed his stuff up, and she took him to the temple. And the priest Eli was there at the temple.
Eli.
Eli was his name, yeah.
I know an Eli.
You know an Eli?
Mm-hmm. Eli Oakley.
Oh, he's such a great kid. Yeah.
Yeah.
He's a good egg.
But this wasn't Eli Oakley.
No,
Okay.
This was not Eli Oakley. So, Hannah took Samuel, the little boy, and gave him to Eli to use as his special helper. Because Eli had other sons, but Samuel was going to be a special helper at the temple, just for Eli.
Really?
Yes.
Instead of Eli's sons.
Well, I think they had some other work they had to do. They didn't follow the rules very well. Yeah, but we'll get to that in a minute. Because the story doesn't end there, because we hear more about Samuel. So, Hannah, being the faithful person she was, did what she said she was going to do, and I'm sure she was very upset, but she went home, back to her house, and Samuel grew up at the temple.
Wow.
Yes, and one night, he went to bed, and Eli went to bed at his bed, and guess what happened? I'll help you out. It's okay. Okay. So, Samuel went to sleep, and then all of a sudden he heard somebody calling him, Samuel, Samuel. And he woke up and he said, oh my goodness, the priest Eli must need me. So he goes trucking over there to Eli's bed. He goes, Mr. Eli, do you need something? Eli goes, no, what are you doing? He said, I heard you calling me. I didn't call you, Samuel. Go back to bed. So
What did he
Samuel,
call?
he was a little confused at that point, but he went back to bed. A few minutes later, he heard, Samuel, Samuel. And he woke up. And he went running back to Eli's bed. He goes, Priest Eli, did you call me? I'm here. Priest Eli wasn't very happy at that point. He goes, no, I didn't call you. Go back to sleep.
I think the priest is tricking him.
Well, I don't know. So Samuel goes back to his bed. Guess what happens?
What?
Third time. Samuel hears, Samuel, Samuel. He wakes up and he goes, I know I heard Priest Eli call me this time. So he goes running over to Priest Eli. He goes, I know you called me. I heard Samuel, Samuel, it's got to be you. Eli woke up and he said, I tell you what, if you hear somebody call you again, you say these things, these words. Speak, Lord, for your servant's listening.
Speak, Lord, for your servants listening.
That gives you a hint as to who it might have been. Okay? So he goes back to bed. Fourth time. Samuel, Samuel. Samuel wakes up. He looks around, but he remembered what Eli said. So he said, Speak, Lord, for your servant's listening. And guess what?
What?
It was God.
God?
And God wanted to talk to Samuel.
Whoa!
Yeah. Isn't that amazing?
That is amazing.
Yeah. And God said, okay, I need you to be my faithful servant. And Eli's going to have some trouble with his boys because they're not following directions. And it's going to be really hard on him, but I want you to stay faithful. So.
Did he?
He did. Because that's just in the first part of Samuel. There are so many more pages. There's a 1 Samuel and a 2 Samuel. And Samuel goes on to do so many amazing things. And he was a faithful servant of God. And I'm not even going to tell you the rest of the story because there's so much to it.
You're not?
I'm just going to stop it right there. Okay? Yeah.
Stop it right there, huh?
Yeah. I think you could probably tell me the story. Can you tell me the story? I want to see, I'm a teacher, and I want to see what you remember from the story.
Okay. Well, I'm a musician, so let me
I've
get
heard
some
that.
rhythm with that.
Okay.
Okay, we're dropping the beat. Hannah was sad, for she wanted a son, so she went to the temple to pray for one. She promised God, if he answered her prayer, that her son would serve in the temple there.
In the temple there. In the temple there.
9 months later, Hannah had a son. She loved her son more than anyone. While Hannah's son was just a lad, she took him to the temple with all that he had.
With all that he had. With all that he had.
The little boy Samuel, for that was his name, learned to help the people whenever they came. Eli would show him exactly what to do, and all the while little Samuel grew.
And all the while little Samuel grew. And all the while little Samuel grew.
Then one night, when bedtime came, he heard old Eli calling his name. He ran to Eli, but Eli said, I did not call. Go back to bed.
Go back to bed. Go back to bed.
Then Samuel heard the voice once more, so he ran and knocked on Eli's door. But sleepy Eli shook his head. I did not call. Go back to bed.
I did not call. Go back to bed.
When it happened again, old Eli knew. told the boy what he should do. Listen, for God is speaking to you. So Samuel listened with all his might and talked with God that very night.
He talked with God that very night.
Talked with God that very night.
And talked with God that very night. Nice job, Ron.
Good story, Louise.
Yes, I'm so glad we could share that with our friends.
All right.
Bye.
Bye.